Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. While everyone was watching the model race, something else was happening in the background. Over the past 5 days, the legal industry became the fastest moving corner of enterprise AI. The signal came from 3 different directions at once. And here is what makes it worth 10 minutes of your morning. Not one of those 3 signals is a sales claim. Every one of them is somebody's own behavior. By the end of this episode, you will know what happened, why it happened to lawyers of all people, and how to spot the moment your own industry's turn comes. Because this is a template. Legal just ran it first. Start with the quietest of the 3. 2 weeks ago, OpenAI published usage data from across its enterprise customers. Buried in it was a figure about Codex, which is OpenAI's agent product. An agent in this context is AI that does not just answer questions. It carries out multi-step work on a computer under supervision the way a junior employee would. Here is the figure. Since February, the number of legal professionals using Codex every week grew 108 times. Sales grew 41 times. Recruiting grew 41 times. Marketing grew 26 times. And engineers, the people who invented this technology, grew 5 times. Now, the honest version of that number, 108 times, is what growth looks like when you start from almost nothing. In February, the lawyers were barely in the building. Engineers only grew 5 times because they arrived 2 years ago. So do not treat the multiplier as gospel. Treat the ranking. Of every profession OpenAI can see inside its enterprise customer base, the fastest growing population of agent users is the lawyers. That was the demand side. Then this week, the supply side moved twice. On Monday, Thomson Reuters announced it had built its own AI model. This is the Toronto-based information company behind Westlaw, the legal research database, and the Reuters Newswire, not licensed to model, built one. It started from an open source model published by Alibaba, the Chinese commerce giant, and specialized it on the one thing nobody else on earth has: decades of its own legal, tax, and news content. The company says it has used less than 10% of that content so far, and it disclosed a number you almost never get to see. The whole program cost $40 million in US dollars, covering people and computing. Its technology chief told reporters that the final training run came to roughly $450,000. Hold on to that second figure. We are coming back to it. They named the model Thomson, which tells you exactly who it is supposed to work for. Then on Tuesday, Google shipped a legal-specific version of Gemini Enterprise, its system for putting AI agents inside companies. Purpose-built for contract review, legal research, and regulatory monitoring, and plugged into the software law firms already run on. The launch customers were not startups hunting for a press release. Freshfields, one of London's oldest and most prestigious firms, put its name on it. So did Cleary, a New York firm that has advised on some of the largest deals in history. 2 more firms of the same rank in New York and Washington signed on beside them. Freshfield's global managing partner called it a strategic multi-year partnership, in writing with the firm's name attached. One more detail from Tuesday, because it is almost comic. Inside Google's new legal product, on the roster of systems it connects to, sits software owned by Thomson Reuters. One day, after Thomson Reuters declared independence, its own product turned up as plumbing inside the rival's offering. Nobody in this industry waits for anybody. Now, you might reasonably file all of this under vendors doing vendor things in the same news cycle. Here's why I do not. A product launch is a claim, usage data is not. 4 elite law firms lending their names is not. Those names are the product, and firms of that rank do not rent them out casually. And $40 million on a company's own balance sheet is about as far from a marketing claim as corporate behavior gets. Nobody in this story is asking you to believe a demonstration. They are showing you what they did with their own money. So the interesting question is, why lawyers? Every piece of conventional wisdom said they would move last. The profession is careful by constitution. It runs on precedent. It bills by the hour, and the billable hour was supposed to be the incentive that kept the machines out. I will admit I had a head start on this one. My daughter Gabby is a tech transactions attorney at Latham & Watkins, one of the largest law firms in the world. Tech transactions lawyers are the ones who paper technology deals. And as you might suspect, given what her father does every morning, Gabby has become one of the firm's go-to people on AI tools. Of course she has. Latham is not one of the four firms in Google's announcement, by the way, which tells you this runs wider than one press release. So when the usage data says the lawyers moved first, I did not need convincing. I have watched it happen across the dinner table. Here is what I make of it. OpenAI's own report explains almost in passing why software engineers adopted agents first. Their work gives the AI clear context, and their outputs are easy to verify. Then look at what a lawyer produces: a document with citations where every claim traces to a source reviewed by someone senior before a client ever sees it. Legal work comes with its own answer key. It is the most verifiable work in the building that is not software. The lawyers did not adopt fast despite being careful. The care is why it works. Verification is exactly what agents need, and the legal profession had it lying around. And the billable hour did not stop any of it. The profession that bills in 6-minute increments is adopting agents faster than your engineers did. Sit with that one for a moment. Give credit where it is earned on two counts. Those firms could have run quiet trials for another year. Going first publicly in a profession that punishes mistakes is a real commitment with their names attached. And Thomson Reuters made a harder disclosure than it looks. Most companies in that position would have called the model proprietary magic. This one told you whose open source model it started from, told you the cost, and put a small version out where anyone can download it and poke at it. The company's own early testing says it holds up against the big general models. That is its claim to prove. But unlike most, it handed you the means to check. One caution before the takeaways, because the graveyard is real. Domain-specific models have been tried before. Bloomberg built one in 2023 and watched the general models lap it within a year. Thomson Reuters is betting the economics have changed since then. The market is not sure. Investors took nearly 10% off the stock the afternoon the spend was disclosed. The bet is the news. The outcome is not in yet. So what do you do with this if you do not run a law firm? Two things. First, everyone listening buys legal services. The economics underneath your outside counsel are now moving on three fronts at once: their own tooling, the platform's new products, and their data supplier's own model. Nothing about your current engagement changes today, but the next fee conversation happens in a different world than the last one did, and it is worth walking in knowing that. Second, and this is the one to keep, what legal just went through is a pattern, not a one-off. Watch for three signals in your own industry: your specialist quietly showing up in the usage data, a platform vendor shipping a version built for your sector, and the company that owns your industry's data deciding to build instead of rent. Financial services got its version the very same day, with a major exchange and a major bank as first customers. Google has already said healthcare is next. When all three signals hit your industry in the same season, you are not early anymore. You are in it. And for those of you sitting on decades of proprietary data, which in this audience is more of you than you might guess, the arithmetic changed this week. The frontier labs spend billions. A specialized model built on your own content cost $40 million. The final training run cost $450,000. That last number does not price a moonshot. It prices an experiment for a company with real margins that is closer to a trade show budget than a bet the company decision. A few weeks ago on this show, I argued that most companies should rent the intelligence and own everything around it. I still believe that. Thomson Reuters is the exception that sharpens the rule. When your data is the product, the calculus flips, and owning the model stops being a technology decision and becomes a moat decision. Here is the part I would repeat in a boardroom. Nobody in this story published a proof. There is no white paper to argue with. There is usage climbing quietly for 6 months. There are 4 of the world's most careful firms signing their names. And there is a $40 million line on somebody's balance sheet. When you want to know where AI actually works, watch what careful people do with their own money. Money is the one signal that never markets itself. 2 numbers from this week stayed with me: 108 and $450,000. The first tells you what the most cautious profession in your orbit has been doing quietly since February. The second tells you what it now costs to find out whether your own data is a moat. Carry them both into your week. One of them describes your vendors, the other one might describe you. That is the YPO Tech Network AI brief for Wednesday, August 26th. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, send it to a fellow member. I will be back tomorrow with more. Until then, stay sharp.